I wish that I could go back home. Wish I could go back home. Back to my feather bed, I could rest my aching head. Well, I wish that I could go back home. I wish that I could ride that train. Wish I could ride that train. I'd even stoke the engine to get to my journey's ending. Well, I wish that I could ride that train. Well, I wish that I could get a ride. Wish I could get a ride. That some Ford or Chevrolet would pick me up, not drive away. And I wish that I could get a ride. I wish that I could leave this town. Wish I could leave this town. Well, it's dirty and it's hot, my little hometown, it is not. Well, I wish that I could leave this town. Well, I wish that I could go back home. Wish I could go back home. Back to my feather bed, I could rest my aching head. Well, I wish that I could go back home. Wish I could go back home. Hi, that was a brand new song of mine that I wrote, well, by the time I set my camera up, maybe an hour and a half ago. I finished writing it, and I started writing it about 2.5 hours ago. It just sort of popped out, I scribbled it down and had a play around, and it pretty much just fell into place pretty quickly. So I thought I'd better record it so that I remember how it goes, and then I thought, well, why not show you how to play it while I've got the camera running. So it's a song called I Wish I Could Go Back Home, and it's very much in that kind of jug band and sort of early swing kind of feel. It's the same pattern over and over again for every verse, so once you've learned one verse, you've got them all. And there's a little fancy bit a bit further up the neck that's not too difficult, and I'll show you that in a moment as well. And you can download the chart for this from the link below. So let's have a look at just the simple chords for it. It's in the key of F, and we'll break it down, starting off with our F, and it's very much a stompy on the beat kind of feel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can put the odd upstroke in if you want, but not at the expense of that nice strong downbeat. We've got an F for a bar, then half a bar of G7, half a bar of C7, it's 2 beats each, and then F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 bars there, 4 bars in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, that's the first line. Second line starts on an F. So we've had 2 bars of F at the end of the last line. We've got another bar of F now. 1, 2, 3, 4, G7 again. But this time, instead of going to a C7, we go to a G augmented 7, or a G7 sharp 5, you could call it. What we're doing is we're taking our G7 and we're raising this note, the one that's on the C string, from the 2nd fret to the 3rd fret. You could slide it like that, but you'd have to be careful not to slide that finger. I just pop my little finger down on that string, but you can do whatever you want. You could refinger it, it's up to you, whatever's most comfortable for you. But we get G7 for 2 beats, G7, or G augmented 7, or G7 sharp 5, whatever you want to call it, and then a C7, and 2 bars of C7. So the second line is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have this little bit that's often referred to as the stop verse in jug band music and ragtime music. It's quite common, and in some blues as well. It's called a stop verse because you often do this. You stop. I don't stop, but I do still try and keep that strong rhythm on the first beat. I just emphasize it, but I didn't want to leave a great big gap. I wanted to keep the rhythm going. So I'm going to do it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And on that last one, you can start to get back into some rhythm again, like a bit of a rhythmic fill to get back into the solid rhythm, ready for the last line. So the chords for this bit are F. Now I've got my little finger down here on the 3rd fret of the 1st string when I play F. You don't have to. I like to play it that way, but in this bit, it's really, really useful if you can do that, because we have F, then we put our ring finger down on the 3rd fret of the C string to make an F7. And again, you don't need that little finger, but it's going to come in handy when we put all 4 of these chords together. Because then the next chord I've got is B flat. Now you can play a regular B flat if you want. I do a little tricky thing here that I often do in a lot of these bluesy songs, particularly when I want something that's got a little bit more colour to the chords, but also when I want something that sits under my fingers nicely so that I don't have to think too much about it while I'm singing. I'm actually playing a B flat added 9, which is just the lowest 3 strings of a B flat, 3, 2 and 1 on the G, C and E strings. But instead of barring with my index finger to cover the 1st fret of my A string, my little finger is still there from the F7. So that 3, 2, 1, 3 is a B flat add 9. But given that I'm bashing away on the lower strings mainly, I'm trying to keep this quieter strum other than on the 1st beat. I'm often not hitting that string. Doesn't matter if you do, sounds great, but it might not be quite so obvious when you hear me play the song. Then I slide my little finger up 1 fret, so I'm now on the 4th fret, and I drop a bar down on the 1st fret. So now 1, 1, 1, 4, and that is a D flat chord. So the stop verse goes like this. F, 1, 2, F7, B flat, add 9, D flat, bit more rhythm there to bring it back in. And the last line is almost the same as the first line, but I've sneaked in an extra chord between the F and the G7. So instead of a whole bar of F, we now have half a bar of F, D7, then G7, C7 and F like the first line. And those 2 bars of F on the end to finish. So let's play a verse together. 1, 2, 3. I wish I could go back home. Wish I could go back home. Back to my feather bed. I could rest my aching head. I wish I could go back home. Okay, and then all of the rest of the verses are the same. There's a little instrumental break, which I'll show you in a second. I sing all 4 verses, and then I go back and repeat the first verse. And when I repeat that first verse, I have a little what we call tag ending on it, which means when I get to the last line, I kind of loop back on myself and repeat it. And the timing has to change for this to happen. So the final time round, I get to that last line and go F, D7, G7, C7, F2, 3, D7, and that sets me up to do another G7, but a whole bar, C7, but a whole bar, F. And there's a little ending that I'll show you in a second. So we're stretching out that G7 and C7. So in context, when I'm singing it, you get this. I wish I could go back home. Wish I could go back home. Okay, what do I do at the very end? I'll show you that now, because in a moment we're going to go on to the instrumental bit. I do this funny little thing where I put my little finger down on the 4th fret of the E string whilst holding my F. I'm not worried about that top string anymore. I've taken my little finger off that. It's just a 2-finger F. I put my little finger on the 4th fret of the E string, which sounds awful, but then I slide it down to the 3rd fret, which sounds okay, and then I take it off. But when I put it down, I'm being a bit lazy about putting it down, so I'm sort of muting that top string. It's difficult not to, and in this case it sounds quite good if you do mute it. And I've got this rhythm. So the final sort of double last line is, wish I could go back home, D7 repeat. Wish I could go back home. You got it? So it's the 4th fret. And you can mess with the timing as long as we go from that tense sound down to that 3rd fret and then back to an F to finish and make it a nice snappy F. Okay, you should have all the ingredients now that you need to play the whole song. I did have an instrumental break though and a little intro, and they're almost identical. So let's do the intro first. The intro is going to be played over that last line. So the chords are F, D7, G7, C7, F. Now if you don't want to do any of this stuff higher up the neck, you could just play that as your intro. You could just play I wish I could go back home, like that, and it would work fine. In fact, all I'm doing is playing those same chords further up the neck and wiggling a finger around here and there to get a little bit of melody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close in on my fingers and then go through it nice and slowly so you get a nice close-up of what's going on. Okay, here we are in close-up mode. I'm going to bar, this is the 5th fret here, I'm going to bar the 5th fret, and then I'm going to put my little finger down on the 8th fret. So 5, 5, 5, 8. That's an F chord. Then I need a D7 chord. I'm going to leave the bar where it is and I'm going to put my 2nd finger down on the 6th fret of the C string. That's my D7. Then I need a G7. Well, I'm actually going to play a G9, which means I take my index finger down to the 4th and then I play all of the rest at the 5th. Then I need my C7 and I'm going to go down one more fret with my index finger to the 3rd fret and I'm going to play the same shape that I had for the D7 here but at the 3rd fret, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom for my F. So that's 90% of it. There's just a little finger wiggle to do. So let's try that. Okay, well, to make that melody pop out, I've actually just got to move one finger once. It's really easy. On that F chord up here, and I'm going to, you wouldn't normally do this, but I'm going to tuck those fingers down so you can see as far as I can until I need one of them. I play that one, just like before, the F. Then I take off my little finger because I'm going to the D, but then I put my little finger back. But rather than on the 8th fret on the 1st string, it's on the 8th fret of the 2nd string, and that's it. That just gives me that bit of da 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 melody that wish that I could, just so I can echo the melody of the tune. So we get this really slowly. And then we're into the tune. So I'll play it in context, and then you can see if you can play along with me. I'm just going to play and then sing the first line of the tune. I wish I could go back home. Now I play it a bit faster, so take it slow to start with and build it up to something like this. Because we really want that nice, fast, bouncy feel. That's your intro. The good news is that the solo is almost exactly the same, at least for the first part of it. The solo is going to do a similar kind of thing, but if you notice that, well, we were playing the final line of the song there with that D7 in, but the solo is played over a whole verse. And the first and second lines of the verse don't have that D7 in, which means we don't have to put this finger down to make the F into a D7. We can just do this. So it's the same movement here, I just haven't added that finger to change the chord. And then, same as before, but I'm going to go, instead of down to this F here, I'm going to go back up to this F. So. That's just like the first line of the song. Then I'm going to do it again and follow the chords for the second line of the song. Same, G9. Now, when you're doing that G9, which is the 4, 5, 5, 5 one, stretch your little finger out to 6, and that's giving us that sharp 5, that augmented sound. And then we're going to go to this C7 here. Now I'm playing 5, 7, 6, 7. Although if you want to, you could leave the G string open and just play 7, 6, 7. That's the same as a G7 chord shape, slid up, so I'm on the 6th and 7th frets. Up to you. I like that one because I can control it a bit more by releasing the pressure, whereas with that one, that G string's going to ring. But both will work fine. So that's the first bit. That's the first line. Next line. Little finger. C7. And then for this bit, we're going to just do what we did before, but with higher inversions. So we're going to play at F, like we started there, 5, 5, 5, 8. So a loud one on the 1, then quiet ones, and then make it an F7 by losing the little finger and putting your second finger on the 6th fret along with the bar. Okay, and then I'm going to go and play this shape. Now, this is the same as the C7 we just had, but 2 frets lower. So 3, 5, 4, 5. And that is a B flat 7, same chord. And then I've got a choice. I can either play my D flat just like I did before, there, or if I wanted to, I could play it here, which is just like our C7, but D flat is a semitone higher than C7, so I could play it there. So here's the two options. Or same chords, just a different way of playing them. And then I go down, right down here, which is exactly the same as the chords that we played when we were singing the verse. So let's put it in context. I'll sing the last line of a verse and then I'll go into that little instrumental break. Here we go. I wish I could go back home. Here we go. I wish I could ride that train. Then we're back into the next verse. So now you've got all the ingredients to play I Wish I Could Go Back Home, a song I wrote about, well, probably 2 hours ago now by the time I've shot this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.